Hey guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. It's Jay Helmsing here. I am going to review the P-07. This is the Generation 2. I'll talk a little bit about the duty as well today. And this is by CZ. This is a handgun that has been a workhorse for me. So I've had 3 different models of this gun, 3 different individual guns. And I keep coming back to it. And I'll try to get into that in this review today. As you guys notice, I'm in horizontal or landscape filming mode today by popular demand. So I appreciate you guys making those comments and suggestions, and I will do my best to fulfill those. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to tune in and listen to me ramble about guns. So on with the show. CZ P-07 here. This is a tremendous handgun. I've had really good luck with these, and I thought before I filmed this, I've got several thousand rounds through the 3 different models that I had, and I was thinking if there was a failure in this platform, and I cannot think of a single malfunction that I've had with the CZ P-07 in all the time that I've been using it. So maybe I'm just lucky in that aspect, but maybe it speaks to the reliability of the platform. The first thing you need to know about the CZ P-07 and P-09 for that matter is that they are built like tanks. I mean, these are some serious industrial military style guns. Okay, everything on here is robust, from the slide to the polymer, the grade of polymer that they use. I mean, this is it just feels like a solid gun that is not going to break on you, and that's what I really like about that, coupled with the reliability that I've experienced. I would say you'd be hard pressed to find another gun that feels as sturdy as a CZ P-07. These are just really well built, really well thought out guns in my opinion. And the best thing is you can buy them for $400. So keep that in mind as I go through and review this. $400 handgun is what I'm talking about. And it is probably one of the best deals on the market as far as getting a good, reliable, hammer gun. These are just, they're going to be really tough to beat, I think, in a lot of different aspects that I'll get into here in just a moment. So starting from the top down, I'm going to talk first about the sights. These are the Gen 2 sights that have, they used to have, I black out the rear in all my sights, but they used to have the 3 dots. These are luminescent dots. I don't really get into the luminescent stuff except for tritium. The glow-in-the-dark stuff like this seems kind of counterintuitive to me, because typically when you need a gun at night, you're not going to have it out in sunlight or in daylight and then have something happen at twilight. I mean, maybe it's happened, but typically those are going to be things that happen maybe middle of the night, or if you have this in a holster carrying it in your waistband, it's not going to have any charge on those luminescent sights anyway. So just something to think about. Maybe it's a good thought, but they just don't seem to pan out with the glow-in-the-dark sights. So not a make or break. I'm real neutral on the topic there as far as I'm concerned. I will talk about the material. It's metal. It is these are good steel sights. These are not going to break on you like some of the manufacturers have on theirs. This maybe being a drawback for some, the slanted or the ramped rear sight. I'm not one of those that spends a whole lot of time getting out in the weeds and training for all these kind of what-if things. Now, I do a lot of weekend drills, and I do some obviously malfunction drills and some what-if scenarios here and there with, what if I do lose my dominant firing hand and how do I rack the slide and stuff like that. But I feel like there are some people out there that get way out in the weeds on that stuff, and they'll teach these classes, and the whole class is centered around these kind of really rare what-if scenarios. And they'll tell you, oh, you've got to be prepared for anything, got to be prepared for anything, which is true. But if you don't have solid fundamentals, all that what-if stuff isn't going to matter, because you can't put shots on your target. So that's my philosophy: is spend your ammunition with the probability of how you're going to actually react in a firefight. And that is probably going to be a surprise sort of reaction, and you're probably going to pull it out with your right hand, and you're probably not going to get your finger blown off right away. Probably. Could it happen? Sure. But in that case, like we used to say in the military, sometimes you just got to suck it up and realize that you were dealt a really bad hand, and the odds are crap in this situation, So just to try to prepare for absolutely everything, I think is more of it's not like a marketing gimmick than anything. And this is my personal philosophy on it, but I think a lot of these trainers out there will do things like that, and they'll kind of get people to say, oh, well, you never thought of that, did you? And they'll say, oh, wow, that guy's really good, because I would have never thought about racking the slide off my earlobe if something happened to both of my hands. And that just seems to kind of be the mantra there with some of these things, some of the style and the way people train. So, you know, rant over. If that's you, I got nothing but love for you. But at the same time, that's kind of the way I look at it. This ramp slide is not ramped sight, I should say, is not going to be a make or break for me. So something to keep in mind, that I don't have that ability if I need to, but there are other ways to get this slide manipulated if I lose the ability to grasp it with my hand. So just keep it in mind. I mean, if it is a make or break for you, then you know, definitely budget some for sights right away. For me, these sights have been crisp and they're very clear. I don't have an issue being accurate with these sights, and they seem to be really good duty sights. So I think a lot of manufacturers can take some lessons from CZ on what should probably come out of the box on your factory sights. Moving on with the top end of the gun here, the slide, the barrel, this entire top end is just built really, really solidly, and the slide is super thick, the barrel is super thick, and of course it adds weight to the top end, but at the same time you kind of get the effect of the P-01 or the Shadow guns, where you've got that weight over the front end, and it's keeping the front end, you know, that inertia is obviously keeping that stasis, you know, that barrel flat for the most part, and you have a little bit less muzzle rise and a little bit less tendency for that to be snappy, in my experience with these guns, because that top end is so heavy and the slide is so heavy and robust. So negative maybe for carrying, these do weigh more than like a Glock 19, although they are the same size relatively speaking. But they seem to be manageable because of that weight over the top. They seem to be really pretty flat shooting guns and easy to manage even for their smaller size. So pros and cons to that, just kind of putting that out there for you guys to be aware of. The cocking serrations front and rear, the front cocking serrations don't seem to work very well for me, because this gun has a really tight lockup, and so it's hard to break it from that lockup at first. Maybe for press checking, if you had it at half cock, or if you're carrying it locked and cocked with the hammerback, you could obviously manipulate it and do your press checks that way. But as far as coming from like you know, a completely dead trigger, it's pretty hard to use those front cocking serrations to actually charge the gun if you do it that way. So something to be aware of. The rear, nicely done. Actually, both of these serrations are nicely done for grip, and you won't have a problem getting a hold of it either way if you need to, even though the slide is short. So traditional CZ style, with the slide riding down in the frame kind of going over that, you lose just a little bit of slide height here, so a little bit of that real estate to grab onto if you need to in an emergency situation, or if you just happen to, you know, release your slide that way. But I don't think it really affects this platform, because those serrations are so nice, and they really do grab your hand and kind of hold your fingers in there and keep it from sliding. So really nicely done as far as the top end is concerned on this gun, in my opinion. The slide catch, slide release right here is just like everything else, is built like a tank on this, and you're not going to have issues with this, you know, missing this. But it is in a funny location, so it's huge. You know, just saying that, it's massive. That's a massive slide stop, slide release. But if you release like I do, I thumb release it. My hand is big enough, and I've worked this so much that it's really easy for me to do it with my thumb. Some people will say that the CZ is, you know, more of a traditional style, where you do that with your offhand. So when you reload your magazine, you take your you know, loading hand, and you flick the magazine release that way after you load. So a couple different ways you could train on that. I don't have an issue with these. I would much rather have it like this than I would really small and kind of closer to my thumb, because I shoot with a really high palm, and I tend to hang slides open on, or slides closed on the last shot. They don't tend to stay open for me on a lot of those guns that have the smaller, maybe better located slide release like that. But on this gun, I feel like it's pretty well impossible to hang the slide open or prematurely, or to keep the slide from locking open on the last shot, because of the way that slide release is designed, or slide catch, whichever term you want to use there. So the other thing is this ambi decocker. It's on obviously both sides, or it wouldn't be called an ambi decocker. I'm not a super big fan of that. I mean, if I have to use this gun weak-handed, I wouldn't have a problem with switching hands and decocking it with my strong hand, or figuring out a way to do that with maybe a finger or something over the top here. But it's ambi on this. It kind of adds to the width, and obviously it's probably not something that's real desirable if you carry it that way. Just my opinion, just my preference. I would rather just have it on the one side, like a lot of the CZ75 series have their decockers just on the one side there. So neither make nor break. I guess you can't go wrong having it ambi, but not something that I would be interested in having if I had the option to do away with it. That said, this has got the Omega trigger system, which, as some of you probably know, you can switch out the decocker to safety. I don't ever use a safety on my guns, so I always leave the decocker in. If you're the type of person that's used to like a 1911 style gun where you can keep it locked and cocked, you could do that with this gun if you wanted to. So it's nice to have that flexibility, and I think it's nice that CZ kind of put that feature in these guns for those of you who are interested in doing that. And more flexibility is better for everybody, because it allows you to have more options, and allows more people to have access to this firearm. So that's always a win. We'll talk next about the grip and the texturing on here. And I really like what they've done with the texturing up here. It's on both sides. One of the few guns that does that. It actually gives you kind of a place to put your non-firing or your firing finger to just kind of reassure yourself that it is clear of that trigger if you're moving, running, whatever, or not actively engaging a target with your gun drawn. So nice to have that to put your finger up there. I kind of trained to pull mine clear up over the ejection port just as habit, but it's nice to have that, and it helps on obviously the weak hand side too, because it gives you some place to kind of put your thumb and get a little bit of traction. So some people stipple that area anyway, and I think it's nice that they did that from the factory on these P-07 and P-09 style firearms. So with that said, the grip is a winning point on all CZ firearms I've ever had my hand on. This is no different. This is nice and sticky on the sides here, but it's also flat, so you could carry it concealed without it bulging or anything. You've got the wider serrations on the back of the gun and the more narrow ones on the front. So they're technically three different grip styles, or three different traction styles all around this gun, and they seem to really help lock it in my hand, along with those fantastic ergonomics that kind of put the hook of your hand up high, but not clear up under the slide like you'll see with some of those guns out there. But this is just a really, really nice gun to grip, in my opinion, and really easy to get a nice, firm grip on it and just keep it well balanced and locked into place for rapid fire. So that's something I really appreciate with the gun that is seldom spoken about, not just the ergonomics, but also the traction that's offered just out of the box there without having to do anything to it. Trigger really well thought out. The duty series of this gun that had duty up here and didn't have the front cocking serrations, it was more blocked off. They had the rounded trigger, the ring trigger. I like that trigger just fine. This trigger is kind of neat. It's got more of a flat style, so it gives you maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, I should say, space between the backstrap here and the trigger. So it breaks a little bit further out. I like both the triggers, and I think they're really well thought out. They're metal triggers. They're just as robust as anything else on this gun, so win in my book. Obviously, you've got the large guard here that you can put a gloved hand in, no problem, especially if it's fully cocked or half cocked. No issue getting a gloved finger in there. Mag release, very nicely done. This is very reminiscent of the Gen 4 Glock, which I believe this is out before the Gen 4 Glock. I'm not sure, didn't look that up, but this is almost just like it, except it's metal. So nice and big, it stays out of the way. It's even got kind of a scallop cut here to kind of give you a little more purchase on it. So again, ergos, a lot of this gun just really, really well engineered. So I appreciate the time and engineering that went into that. Interchangeable back straps, that's kind of standard in the game nowadays. I will say this about these back straps, and that is that to change these out, you got to take the hammer spring out, and this is, as you guys know, especially with factory spring, this is in there under the pressure of like 10,000 killer whales or something. So if you're not careful when you take this out, you're going to rocket the end of this out of here like a Polaris missile, and it's going to be somewhere laying around your garage or your house or your range, wherever you decide to try to change that out. So just beware. This is not a gun that I would be swapping these straps on often, because it takes a little bit more to do it. So I'll put that out there right away. Can be changed, not something that I just set it and forget it. But you know, some of you may have better luck than I do with being careful about shooting that end cap out and letting the spring, you know, rocket out of there. So it is what it is. We'll talk next about the magazine's magwell. It is beveled a little bit. You also have kind of this this part here that sticks down that kind of helps guide the mags up in there, which is nice, because you know all you got to do is find that rear, and you can just help feed it right up in there. So nicely done on the magwell as well. I'm going to talk about the magazines next. The first model of this, the P-07 Duty, had the 16-round magazines for 9mm, which I think is phenomenal, because capacity is really important in a carry gun for me. And you know, the standard being 15 rounds, I think, you know, even just one extra round, that's kind of a good bonus to have on your side, because I'd rather carry 17 rounds than 16. Any day of the week, you know, if I could get away with it. So that's something good to have there. And you know, being a factory mag, you don't have any of those extensions or issues with maybe spring weights and stuff like that that may affect the feeding or reliability of the firearm. So very cool you have a 16-round mag available. That said, the newer ones, these Gen 2 style or whatever you want to call them, with the upgrade, not the Duty model, they come with these 15-round mags that are marked on the back with the witness holes. I've heard a few different theories on why they did that, you know, maybe for spring interchangeability or something like that. Maybe different mag manufacturers, I don't know. But I do know the old style magazines can still be purchased online fairly easily with the 16-round capacity, and they don't affect anything. They still function fine. There's no reliability issue with that, and they're the exact same size as the 15-round mags that they're shipping with now. So my opinion, and what I do, is I purchase the 16-round mag and I carry it with the 16-round mag in. If I'm shooting competition or whatever, 15-round mags will do fine. But for carry, I like having that extra round on a factory mag, so I just purchase a 16-round mag to keep in there. It gives me 17 rounds in the gun, and then I can use a P-09 mag as a backup mag. So again, a little bit long, but this is a factory 19-round magazine. So I got 17 on the gun. I've got an extra 19 in my pocket. Pretty good for a gun that I can easily conceal, because it's about the size of a Glock 19. So capacity, excellent on this gun. Probably second to none for this size platform. So really good in my books, something to think about. Get into a negative next, and that's with the barrel. So I'll take this out, and you're not going to be able to see this. And if you guys don't know, easy way to take these out is to put the take the slide off, I should say, is to put this in half cock, and that's going to allow you to find, you know, how far back it should be cocked without looking at the little lining up the little hash marks there on the opposite side. Now I feel like they should be on this side, so because I'm always, you know, I'm looking to push that button in on this side, so it's easier for me to see those hash marks on this side. But you know, whatever. So you know, I just put it in half cock. I pull it back until the slide is up against the hammer and presents a little bit of pressure, and then I just push it out with an extra magazine. So I push that button out, and you can pull the slide release out, and gun comes apart without pulling the trigger or anything. Standard captured recoil spring here. It's on a polymer rod. It doesn't matter to me either way. So it's on a polymer rod. Just putting that out there for you guys if you weren't aware. The barrel itself, super thick. In my opinion, probably aids in accuracy because it is so thick, especially for a 9mm barrel. I mean, it is like heavy duty thickness. Okay. With that said, there is one drawback with this barrel that I have noticed, and that is that it is a tight chamber, and you won't be able to see anything, and that's not going to mean much to you if you don't reload. But if you do reload, the shape of your bullets is important, because I've had some old junk like cast lead bullets that would not feed in this style gun. Not necessarily P-07, but in my P-09 I did have jamming issues, and then I tested the barrel, you know, did a drop test on the barrel, and they would not function in a P-07 barrel either, but they would function in a CZ75 or really anything else. So the chambers seem to be a little bit tighter than normal, so beware of bullet design. You know, if it's got a more fat end on it, it's probably not going to feed or even fit in the chamber, and it's going to lock the gun half in and half out of battery, and you'll probably have to take some kind of fancy hammer and figure out how to get the slide open with a round in the chamber, which is never fun. So something for you to think about there. Tight chambers, if you use factory ammunition or any quality bullets or anything, it's not going to be an issue, but I will put that out just so you guys are aware of it. And again, this is the slide is just really thick and there's a lot of weight to it. So not so good for carry, good for accuracy though. So we'll get to the big three at the end of this. These slide releases have been known to break sometimes. So under really super duper heavy use, you might want to swap these out every, I don't know, 10,000 rounds or so just to be on the safe side. But because, you know, this also serves as the locking point for the barrel. As the barrel recoils back, it sees pressure over and over again, and some of these have been known to break over time. So this is one fail point of the gun. And again, that's not anything that's chronic, and it's not anything that most users are going to experience. But if you put a lot of mileage on it, just kind of be aware and prepared to do that. I'm going to speak next about reliability for this firearm, and it for me has been absolutely superb. I've had 3 of these, and I've probably fired I don't even, like, several thousand rounds through this platform, and it's been completely reliable. I've never had a single issue with any of my 3 P-07s, so super reliable gun. Accuracy is just incredible with this gun. It's super accurate out of the box. It'll be super accurate, and you're not going to have an issue with this grouping, or, you know, it's just a really nice shooting gun, as most CZs are. They group really well, and accuracy is superb for the size of this gun. We'll talk next about the trigger, which is kind of a good and a bad thing. It's got the Omega trigger. It's much more simple than some of the others, the CZ designs. But with that said, this trigger out of the box is gritty, and it's nasty, and it's not the best trigger in the world in double action. In single action, it's fairly good. It's pretty light trigger. Doesn't take much pressure to set it off. But you know, double action is kind of a different story. All of them are gritty, and they're just not well finished inside because everything's so robust, and these are, you know, mass produced. So be aware of that. Gritty double action trigger. A lot of fixes out there on the market, especially from CZ, either CZ Custom, or you can go to Cajun Gunworks, which is who I use to improve mine. So I've made some changes to mine, including the spring weights and so on. And mine is a much nicer trigger now. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might spend $100, maybe a little bit more on the internal upgrades if you want it to have a really nice trigger, but you bought this gun for $400. So for $500, you've got like a high capacity, double action, single action hammer gun that has a really nice crisp trigger and is an excellent combat gun. So just kind of keep that in mind. Budget for it, or just shoot the snot out of it and let it smooth itself out. It's your call, okay? So in my take, that's the CZ P-07 in a nutshell. Big 3 we talked about. Accuracy, very good. Capacity, excellent. Reliability has been second to none. So that is exactly why I keep these around. You know, it's maybe a little bit heavy for its size, but definitely something you can still carry, especially in the winter months. So if you're looking for a first gun, or you're interested in, you know, trying a hammer gun or something, or if you like hammer guns, you know for sure, this is one I would definitely keep on your list, okay? So with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and continue to like, subscribe, and so on, and I'll keep cranking these videos out. So I appreciate your time, guys. Have a good one.